Welcome to Module 3, Week 4, which begins March 25th to the 31st, and includes the Lecture 3, Part 1, which is the introduction to the overview of objectives and student outcomes, along with the actual lecture of the content, which is split into two parts. Part 2, but it has a intermission and divides the 17 slides equally to decrease the size of the lecture and also give you the opportunity to pause and reflect. So the title of this module or this unit is Rethinking Current Grading Practices. Within this module, the purpose and the overall goal here is to review current grading practices in regards to the research that's out there, and then to discuss learning criterion situated within standards and practices for striving towards equity grading. So we'll conclude with what is equity grading, how do we obtain it in our current conditions as educators. The unit objectives are simple. Grading models. By the end of this, you will know grading models within the U.S. and comparative countries. So really quickly, the grading model are ones that you already know. The traditional one based on standards, and then the other one based on standardized exams and other criterion. So don't feel like it's something new. This part might be an overview for some of you. But the equity part may be a different way of viewing grading and assessment. By the end of this week, you do have 3 things that are due. Actually 4 if you consider the quiz, part 3, part 1 and 2. Group discussion 1. In addition to that, you will have individual practice to demonstrate understanding, and then you'll have the reading practice. I know it seems like a lot, but these next 2, the previous week and then this week, are preparing you for what you need for the midterm. So it's intentional that there's a lot of content in here. That's why this module and the last module will be released earlier than Saturday. This module will become accessible to you starting Wednesday. So if you take advantage of that, then it shouldn't be too overwhelming. You also have midterm project check-in to do this week, which means that you're doing a second part of the midterm project, and hopefully you did pretty well with the first check-in and you had enough time to make the corrections. The reading quiz 3 part 1 and 2 really are purposefully there to summarize or make sure you got the key points out of the readings. There are 4 articles, but they're very brief. And I know that for a lot of you who are super busy, brief is an understatement. It's kind of like I don't have time for anything. But if you proportion it out well, meaning that I open the module to you Wednesday, you begin reviewing the content and completing all the activities. By Friday, you should be able to get all the 4 readings done, in addition to creating the next part of your project. So it shouldn't take you too much of time. The group discussion is 2, and you're actually going to be able to provide feedback to your peers. So previously, the collaborative group activity with peer feedback was based in actual groups. For this assignment, everyone is a group, and you can choose who you like to review their content or review their midterm project and assess them using the rubric. And the person submitting can submit any part of the midterm project that they want. I do understand that people will take a little bit more time to get that done, so the collaborative group activity where you do the peer feedback is not due right away, but I will caution you, the people who submit the midterm project check-ins and also get the peer feedback, they typically do better on their final project with less errors and inconsistencies. So I want you to take advantage of the opportunity to have your peers look over your work and actually submit it. But the way it works is that this is in the form of a discussion, so you can decide whose project you want to review, and also you get to post your midterm project, wait for the feedback, excuse me, and then post a response to them with the rubric scale. So you can send that to them personally, or you can just post it in the response. You can upload their actual project. Okay, that you review. The expected outcomes for this module goes as follows. Hopefully by the end you will have the following skills: be able to analyze the purpose behind differentiating grading practices, reflect on current practices used to implement the required grading policy. You should be able to identify gaps in current class level grading policies that do not support school level grading requirements. And you should be able to evaluate suggested grading and assessment practices for elementary and secondary settings. So at the end of the day, this module kind of, because this is a project check-in too, it encompasses all the things that you need for your midterm project. So don't feel overwhelmed with the expected outcomes. You'll be able to achieve all of these outcomes when you complete the last part of the draft of your midterm. The readings for this week include Grading, the Issue is Not How But Why by Alfie Kohn. Then we have From Degrading to Degrading by Alfie Kohn. And those two are pretty interesting. They complement each other. Then the Best Practices for Equity in Grading. And then A Better Grading System, Standards-Based Student-Centered Assessment. So those two complement each other as well. I thought they were a good selection. Something to consider while we go through this unit. What does it mean to have quality versus quantity? I always mention that with how I try to restructure the two modules or the two courses. What is graded versus reporting student progress? And then what does equity look like in your grading practices? And how do I move closer to consistency in grading practices? So these are just some questions just for you to kind of think about and consider for personal growth. But that concludes the introduction. If you have any questions about the objectives and the student outcomes, please let me know. Stay tuned for Lecture 3, Part 2, which, like I said, includes this series, the 2 different lectures for the 4 readings. Have a great day.